Okay. We are live on the Great Transition channel, everybody. Isn't this wonderful?
Well, it's our first time here, right?
It's well live. It's the first time
First time.
live here. Yeah, and I'm
Okay.
seeing a bunch of people already connecting from a bunch of places like LA and Iowa and Quebec and Tenerife and Israel and you know what, everybody, just let us know where you're watching from, and if by any chance you're new here. And we want to welcome you. Utah as well is joining. Hey, what's up? Yeah, we are in the Great Transition, everybody. The Great Transition means that all of us around the world, regardless of who we are, who we voted for, what we are, even, okay? Even I'll go as far as saying what we are going through a collective evolutionary process. And this is why a lot of us feel like something's happening in the world that is bigger than an election, that is bigger than um, a lot of things that are happening around us, bigger than the news. We're going through a major change, a major transformation, human evolution, nothing less than that. If you feel some of that, in our time, we want to tell you you're absolutely right, and we want to explore where this leads. We want to go deep down the rabbit hole. Welcome to the Great Transition, everybody. How are you, Seth?
I'm good, man. Do we want to say a little bit more about the channel? What's happening here? I see we still have friends that are in the other in the Facebook. Do
Uh,
you just want to tell everyone what's going on for a minute? Just
you're
housekeeping.
you're right. I do see some friends on Facebook. We encourage you to go to, you know what? I can actually show it. There you go. We encourage you to go to bit.ly/ the great transition. Probably one of our friends will also post this link on Facebook. For those of you who are on Facebook, this is really the place to be. This is where we are growing this
Which is the place to be?
the YouTube channel,
The new YouTube channel, right?
the
Okay.
YouTube channel, bit.ly/ the great transition. Go there, subscribe to the new channel, hit the bell so you know to make sure that you are notified about every new video that comes out. We'll be releasing videos in between the shows as well, clips from the shows and other great things that are soon to come. So that's where you want to be. And also, we're going to focus our interaction with the chat, with everything. Oh, I see a lot of people are now joining. That's great. We're going to focus our interaction on the chat there on the YouTube channel. So definitely go there if you want to interact with us live. In any case, thank you so much for being here, for coming here at this pivotal point in human history. Why is it a pivotal point in human history, Seth? What's your guts right now? Give us your
Well,
gut level feeling.
yeah. There's so many different ways to enter this story of the United States presidential election. So we'll go slow. We'll walk around the perimeter of the whole thing and look in from all the different angles and try and get a real glimpse of what's happening here. Something very so. First of all, let's put away aside all of politics. Let's put aside all of the courts and the emotions and all those things. And just while we're together here, let's try and rise above and look down on it like we're great Kabbalists, maybe, or someone who's able to kind of see over everything that's happening. And what we see clearly, we're not going to talk specifically about a poll or about politics or anything like that. But what we can see clearly is that for the most part, the population of the United States seems pretty divided down the middle, whether it's 40% or 60% even, it's even, it seems like it's even closer than that. So what is coming out, which is so interesting, that there really is a very, very strong left and a very, very strong right, almost 50-50. And what we see from that is that, if this, I'm sorry to break the news, but it doesn't mean that 50% of the country, almost 100 million people, are racist, sexist, homophobic, all these things. And it doesn't mean on the other side that everybody is wants to defund the police and get rid of all the government and is totally anarchist and all that kind of stuff and wants to destroy America. Probably on a lot of things, human things, we share a lot in common. But anyway, we have these two very, very strong opposite forces. What we're always talking about is, and it's it's like that in all of nature. In fact, everything that develops in nature, everything develops through the war of the plus and the minus. The even like how Earth developed between the war of this hot and cold, and inside of every single atom, you have a plus and a minus. Inside of all systems, you have night and day, you have high tide and low tide. So it's not a surprise that on the human level, also we follow all of the exact same blueprint of nature that we see, everywhere else. So here's something really interesting about this. There's no like truth. Humans don't have anything that's like true. What I mean by that, I mean in the rest of nature, you don't have giraffes like making a mistake on a regular basis on what they eat and then just dying. You don't have squirrels like accidentally eating poison every day and just dying. Animals know what to do. They wake up in the morning, they have their truth. They know what to eat, they know what not to eat. You don't see a bunch of obese animals like sitting on the side of the path, in the
Right.
woods, just like,
Or
oh,
or doing drugs, you know,
or doing drugs.
drug abuse.
Animals
Yeah.
know the truth. They know what to eat, they know when to sleep, they know where to go, they know which season to move.
They
They
also
got
don't
it.
don't need elections, by the way.
No, it's much more natural for them. Plants also, they know when to open, they know when to close, they know when the season's over, they know when the season comes back. There's truth. Man doesn't know anything. Humans don't know anything. We need constant support from other people. We need constant support from the environment. Even as an adult, after 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, we're still in constant doubt. We have all of these forces that are constantly playing on us. We have, this force of truth. I'm supposed to do like this, but then we have this force of mercy. That's that interesting thing that humans have this thing called mercy. Well, maybe I should have this punishment, or maybe I should behave like this, but I'm going to be merciful. I know he didn't really mean it and whatever. I'm going to be like this. And then we have justice that comes in and says, something else. And then the peacemaker says, well, even if you're wrong and you're wrong, we're going to try and make a peace. And you have all of these different strings, buttons, knobs that humans have, and we can never really get close to the truth like all of the other elements of like, for example, we elected this guy. It's not because we want this guy, but we don't want that guy, and we did this. So it's like everything is like this, like always like a convoluted mix-up of
Yeah,
confusion.
it's like, well, I guess, animals just, follow instincts, to put it simply, I would say, and we follow urges too, but on top of our urges, we have a very complex system of socially driven judgments and calculations that even become our urges, to the point that we can no longer even differentiate between our natural urges and our bodily urges and our socially driven urges. That's how social creatures we are, but I think, here, there you go, Lowell Sturdivant is saying, what about the election? I think maybe let's back up a little bit here, and
Well, I
we're
just wanted to
we're
set the stage before
yeah,
we
no,
before we
no. I mean, for us, we're in the spaceship. We go in the spaceship and we just fly. But I think it is. I think it's important to, you know, let's just to understand. I mean, the U.S. is not the whole world, but it's definitely a place right
Wait,
now
what?
that There we go. But it's definitely a place right now that, a lot of the eyes of humanity are now looking at, even if it's from outside the US. And I think it makes for a very interesting example for this human evolution process that we want to talk about. But just facts on the ground right now. What is happening? A new president was elected or not? I keep seeing. I mean, I look at. I mean, you look at the news. You look at other kinds of news. You see commentary on the news, and you get the feeling that there's like conflicting processes here. So what's happening? Can you just
This is what's happening.
okay? This is where.
This is Brooklyn, New York yesterday.
Okay, so this is people partying because their president, the one they wanted, won, right? But then there's
That's what's
another.
going. So I live in a college town between Philadelphia and New York City. It's
Okay,
not a very busy town. There was fireworks going off at 11 o'clock last night. There was people in the street banging pots. There's people singing. It was like now I live in a Democratic state, um, but there were people literally partying in the streets yesterday. And interestingly enough, um, I guess the virus disappeared yesterday,
right.
because normally, if people get together in crowds like that, there's police there. Or supposed to. I don't know. It gets confusing here because certain groups, when they get together, the police come out and say you're not allowed to get together, and other groups, it's totally. I don't know. There's
It
just no police to be
it's
found.
it's possible that that COVID takes a break during elections. During election, it's like it's programmed that way. That you
Yeah,
know
it also takes a break at the restaurants in town. I told you about this before. On the
exactly.
sidewalk, there is COVID, but if you sit down in the restaurant chairs on either side of the sidewalk, there's no COVID there.
I
So
guess.
it's an interesting virus. We'll learn a lot
Yeah.
from it. So anyway, on the ground here, you have, as we were saying in the beginning, the country is really split down the middle. You have some groups that are very, very happy, and others that are kind of devastated and upset. Here's something else that's interesting, which is we always kind of knew about media bias and things like that. And by the way, we are not a political channel here. We don't have a political view like this or like that. We're looking at systems. That's how we look at big macro systems and how we affect that system, where we are in that system, what forces are operating. It's interesting to see some of these things, though. Like here, this is the president of the United States' Twitter feed. And if you look, all of these have been
So this is the
um,
president
president of the
being
United
censored,
States' Twitter feed is being censored. Yeah, censored,
right?
censored, censored, censored. So that's something that's interesting, because we always knew politicians were crooked and stuff, but at least in the modern world, we expected at least to hear the voices of one side. And even if we said that they're total BS, and even if we said they're a liar or something like that, we expected to hear at least another side of the story. Now you can't even. It's very interesting. It's a little bit frightening too. You can't hear another side of the story almost anywhere.
Oh, okay. So
So that's interesting.
that is interesting. It's Black Mirror interesting, I would say. The kind of times that we're getting into where the power is no longer it's no longer clear
So
where
the media, it
the
seems like the
flow of
powers with the
power.
media company, the powers with I mean, the message that we hear is coming from the media companies more than it is coming from the politicians.
So what's happening right now, correct me if I'm wrong, that basically there was this election, it took more than a day and then 2 days and then 3 days, maybe 4 days or even five
Which is
days.
normal
Uh,
anyway. Yeah. Yeah.
which
I mean,
okay, but that was like a nail biting situation, right? For like
yeah.
all of the people of the United States of America. And then, if I understand correctly, the courts right now didn't yet rule about who won the election, but the news media have. So basically,
I
it
don't think that it's not normally, I'm not an election
it.
expert. It's not, I mean, I just happen to live here. It's not, the court actually doesn't decide. There's some
Mhm.
certifying body that certifies the election. Like each state certifies their results. So
Right.
the number comes in, and that's what the media says, bases it on, I think. But then at some point, each state has to certify, like, this is the certified number. We like double checked it, and that's it. So the
Right.
election is not certified yet, but it's
Hmm. And it's not certified yet because there might be some lawsuits challenging
there's
the.
there are some lawsuits right now. There's certain states that are that the president is contesting the results. So
So there is no final answer, but there is a final answer coming from all of the media.
the
Is that
media,
correct?
yeah, correct. I mean, the
Okay.
media is saying transfer of power. The media is saying it's over. I mean,
Okay.
that's the media
And
I see here, the blue state, when I open up my Google. I don't know if people somewhere else are seeing other things. I try and look around, but that's the thing. So if the court case continues, and if it turns out somehow that they are tied, very interesting. So we have a House of Representatives and we have a Senate. Um, the House of Representatives happens to be controlled by the Democrats. The Senate happens to be controlled now by the Republicans. So if there happens to be a tie, the House of Representatives selects the president and the Senate selects the vice president. So you
oh.
could literally have, if there's a tie, which I'm sure it's a tiny, tiny possibility, but it's fun to think about. If there's a tie, Joe Biden could be the president and Donald Trump could be the vice president.
Oh man, that will be like, that
That
will
would be really
be
something 2020, right?
there'll
Wouldn't that
be
be
it's totally 20,
so
it'll be
funny?
like reality's laughing us in the face kind of thing.
That would be
But
such a 2020 move if Biden was the president and Trump was the vice president as of
so
January.
theoretically that's a possibility.
Theoretically, that is a possibility.
Okay, so but at the moment, I mean, the collective consciousness driven by, fueled by the news media, is basically that this is done and one side has already won, right? And this is why
Correct.
you see people dancing on the streets where where they favor that side who won. Okay,
Correct.
okay. So first of all, before we go on, I'm seeing that some friends from Facebook are moving over. If I got it right, to the YouTube channel. That's great, you guys. If you're, and I think some are wondering whether they should or shouldn't. Yeah, definitely go ahead. You can even just now click out of Facebook and click into YouTube. There, the YouTube link is in the Facebook chat as well if you're looking for it. So definitely go ahead and come to the YouTube channel and join with us in the chat there. So okay, you started from saying, Seth, that the polarization, the division, what we see from the selection is that the country is really divided in half. I mean, sure, maybe there are some fraudulent votes that are happening, who knows, from this side, that side, but either way, it's a razor thin difference. We're looking at almost 50-50, right, in terms of who chose left and who chose right. Is that right? That's
That's what, leaving all of everything aside, it's within a few, even million, but it's
and
small,
very small,
very small
very
percent. Yeah.
small. And I understand also that this is record high voting numbers, meaning this is also so not only people are very divided, like exactly in the middle, like the whole country is, one side against the other side, but also it's very important and urgent for the people to get their side to win, or at least was, whatever you want to call it, because people went out and voted in record numbers. So you have a very uh, tense, situation full of both tension and hostility or animosity or how do you want to call this? Just division, I guess, conflict. Um, this is interesting. I mean, when you think about going back to what you started with, society, at least what the example that we're seeing in the US right now, is that society is being like very harshly divided into polar opposites, and these opposites are not, it seems like they're not in the direction of coming gradually together. They're more like coming, growing further and further apart.
So my parents divorced when I was young, and I always kind of used
Yeah,
this this way to
me
like
me too, by
understand
the
it in
way.
my
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
in my head, like I always felt like one of my parents was like fire, and they're like, you need fire. How can you live if there's no warmth? How can you prepare your food if you don't have fire? Like you need, and the other one's like water. It's like, what, you think you can live without water? How are you going to live without water? You need water. And like that's how I grew up, with
great.
these like complete opposites. And I literally like thought the Messiah was going to come if these two could get back together. Like that's how um uh
How
there
old were
there
you? How old were you?
I was in fifth grade when we moved, so before that maybe third grade
Fifth?
when I started, or even younger. I
Yeah, I
was
think
like
third grade for me. Third
10,
grade.
maybe I was 10 when
Yeah, it
we
was
left,
same
when we
ages,
moved out.
same ages. Like the yeah.
So in
We're
we can open
more
that
and
up
more
sometime.
more and more similarities in the process of creation. Anyway, yeah.
So what was interesting about it was like both of them had really justified points as I looked at it and grew. Like they were both, had good qualities, but they just couldn't live together. They couldn't find a way
Hmm.
um, to do it. They just didn't have, in the past we didn't have as much kind of emotional intelligence, and it's hard for those generations that go from like the old world into the new world. In the old world, everybody was traditional, regardless of who you were married with, you pretty much stayed there and you lived out your life, and you did your occupation, you supported your family, and that's what it was. You didn't kind of look to the horizon so much.
Hmm.
uh, but as our generation develops and we have this emptiness inside of us all the time, right? That's something also that the animals don't have. The animals we spoke about earlier, who have who can function
On
on the software
instincts.
of
Yeah.
truth, instinct, which is truth. They know what to do, they don't make mistakes. We don't have that, and so we go through our lives, we go through this, all of a sudden we wake up and we're just empty. Just empty, like grandma or great great grandma, she may have woken up in the morning and been empty, but what does she get? She's empty, and then she eats a piece of bread and she feels a little better. Or she's empty and she, takes care of her child and she's better. The guy, he's empty, he goes out, he brings something home for his family, he feels better. But for us, it doesn't matter what we do, we're constantly empty. Why am I bringing this up? Oh, my parents, the divorce. You have like um, a you have fire and water, and they just, you put them together and they keep extinguishing each other and becoming steam. Here in America, it's like these two opposites, that instead of looking to the other one, that the other
Hmm.
one has some quality which completes me, I look
Yeah.
at the other one like the devil. The
Yeah.
devil. I've seen Republicans call Democrats democrats, devil, and I can understand where they're coming from. I see what they're saying and everything. And then I see some people on the left talking to the Republicans like they're racist, and then I can see what they're saying. There's these two completely opposites that just want to cancel each other
Yeah.
completely. So but what are we going to do? You're going to kill 70 million people? I mean, this is what Lenin couldn't get to. Lenin, he's like,
Oh boy.
he had an idea, but then he's like, well, to actually kill half the population, that's a lot of work. But then comes Stalin, and Stalin's like, I'll do the job. Stalin's like, all right, well, we just have to kill a couple, tens of millions to get this project complete. So we'll just do that.
Eh,
Um,
Yeah, and no, go ahead.
go ahead.
No, I mean, there's also something that's happening in the last few years where you hear, when you see the left and right fighting with each other, and this is, by the way, this is true for at least what's happening here in Israel as well. There's a very interesting similarity, I think, all over the Western world. all over the developed world, the Western world, you see this growing disparity, this growing animosity, this growing kind of hostility between left and right. And one of the like the impressions that I keep coming back to is that people of one side start saying they don't just disagree, or even hate the opinions of the other side. People are starting to say in the last few years, "Oh, I'm disgusted." The other side disgusts me. We're talking about feelings of repulsion and disgust, and that I think is a new level of dissonance, of social discord, of polarization. That's a new level because when you disagree with someone, you're in communication. When you judge their views, you're still at least somewhat in deliberation. When you're disgusted from someone, it's only an action of repelling. It's a tendency to just repel to the point that you don't care. Go ahead. What?
This is the part that worries me the most. When I saw everybody celebrating, I got worried. And I'll tell you why. Because we didn't. Why? When we feel the emptiness inside, right? That's on purpose.
What do you mean by emptiness? Emptiness? You mean at the point where no one knew what's happening? The point where
Forget
no.
about the election. Forget about the
Okay.
election.
Okay.
We feel anxiety. We feel uncertainty. We feel depressed. We feel like we don't know what purpose is. We don't know what's going on. I feel an existential emptiness. A person feels, and anyone who's paying attention in life and not just living like an animal is feeling some kind of existential emptiness. That's what's happening to us. Okay.
Okay. I buy
If
that.
we're able,
Mm-hmm.
if we're able to say that you're my problem and then I can eliminate you and then I can feel okay. I don't deal with my existential emptiness. I just basically
Oh.
went shopping or went on a roller coaster or took a drug and I feel okay for now. It's important to celebrate. I'm not taking that away. We're talking just from a higher level about things that are happening here. If we just take some pill and that goes away, uh, we lose the opportunity. We lose what's going on. The solution for us now is how we're going to come together. If we're not going to come together now, and the Democrats are going to now pull on the Republicans, and the Republican Senate is going to pull on the Democratic president, what the Democrats pulled on the Republican president, we're in for. It's not going to get any better. I mean, that actually, from the perspective of the scientist, from the kind of cold, calculated clinical perspective of the scientist, it's actually a beautiful outcome right now, because what will then everyone will be able to realize in a laboratory, like in a very empirical way, it doesn't matter who the president is. If we don't unite, the problems will only increase. If Trump remained president,
Mm-hmm.
and the problems increase, then you can always say that it's his fault. It's his fault. It's his fault. But if the Democrats win or won and the virus doesn't go away and the economic collapse continues and the problems between nations continue, and we see our solution is not going to come from a politician.
Or
Our solutions,
from politics the way it is right now in general, I would say.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Noah on YouTube had a funny comment. He said there was almost 30 years ago, The Simpsons made a show about the 2020 election, and they said it was a problem because shortly thereafter, everyone turned into zombies. So I'm not sure if that's gonna happen. And there was also another comment by Need to Know, who is always with us on our show, about a funeral this morning for his or her nephew, and a pinched nerve in the back, which I know is super painful. I had an issue with S1L5. So, um, anyway, Need to Know, glad you're with us, and hold on.
Yeah, going back I think there's more to unpack here. There's more to get into here because it's not just that, the challenges that we're having right now, and they're global challenges, by the way. COVID, what's happening with the world economy. It's not just in the United States. And it's funny, from when you look from a truly global perspective, it's funny to think that one man, or even, one party or one side will be able to fix the world now. It's childish, and it's a narrow, short-sighted view of the actual challenges that we're going through. But more than that, if the split between the left and right across the public is so 50-50, is so razor thin, doesn't matter, who the actual votes end up going to. At the end of the day, it's very close to 50-50. So what does that mean? That you're going to have a president for half the people? That you're going to have like a government that will govern in favor of half of the people? And then, and then what? And then that will just create growing frustration and hostility in the other side? Is that the plan? That's the best, that we can hope for, that we can plan for. There's clearly uh, like a point of unsustainability. Can I say that? Is there a
Yeah.
better word for that? There's a point where the system, where social polarization becomes unsustainable or untreatable, unsolvable in the current paradigm of modern politics. And this is where I want to try to add some. You mentioned something about this in the very beginning. You said how, in nature we see these polar opposites in nature all the time. We see that all evolution is driven by opposite forces. We see, protons and electrons in the atom. We see plus and minus in electricity, or in any other, in many other kinds of states of matter. We see, two contrasting, conflicting motions that happen in physiology. We see contradicting shapes in anatomy. Male and female, and hot and cold, and ebb and flow, and inhale and exhale, and this black and white, yin and yang, whatever you want to call it, left and right dichotomy, this division, is something that exists throughout all of nature. And if you look at evolution, then you see that evolution is driven by this gap, by this growing gap between two opposites. In fact, it is the growing gap between the plus and the minus, the left and the right, that creates a new level of life each time. The only difference is that these opposing forces, these opposites, the male and female of nature, they each time find a way to complement each other. They find a way to harmonize with each other. They find a way to create a new kind of connection that didn't
If
exist.
they do, then life is formed.
Exactly. Exactly. If they
I mean, that's
When they do, they don't just connect. They connect to something new, better, greater than they currently
so
were.
that's the most exciting thing about where we're at right now, is that a new level is available for humanity, a life that is so beyond anything we can imagine now. I mean, it's so hard. We're so stuck in a tiny movie. We're like less than, we call it kindergarten. I know you call it gun. I don't know what people around the world call it when the child first goes to school. We're
Yeah.
like smaller than that compared to what is on the table for us, what is available to us with all of this power of thought and this power of intellect, and with technology, and with accumulation, thousands and thousands of years of accumulated experience. And basically we're fighting like stupid children, little animals. Animals is how we're behaving. What is a what our next level, if we can explain more about what it means for the plus and the minus in humanity to actually come together. I mean, every appliance is just a plus and a minus coming
the
together.
the the the,
Everything is
the, the crazy thing is the very uh the very thing that keeps us locked in the kindergarten perspective is also the the is also the potential. You know what I mean? The fact that we feel, let me translate this. The fact that we have two parts of society, each one feeling so hateful of the other, disgusted by the other. You want to. I heard, if you go on Twitter a little bit, if you go on social media a little bit, if you go on the left news media a little bit, and then on the right news media a little bit, if you go on the comedy shows, especially the late night comedy shows that, where they openly just mock the other side and try to degrade them as much as possible. If you look at the kind of things that people utter and express towards each other from both sides, that is the gap that is being formed between these two polar opposites. And that puts each side in a blinded situation where they can't even see an option to connect with the other side. However, it's that very gap by which nature is setting the stage for a higher level of human life. If we follow the evolutionary process, you see what I'm saying? If we
I'm distracted about this whole baked beans and hot dog conversation that's going on YouTube, but
Oh, I have no idea what you're talking about. But
I'm
there
trying to
is,
stay with you here. We're trying
but
to solve humanity's problems, but we're dealing with maple syrup and baked beans over here in
hey, we're it's a free chat, man.
the. This is so our friends who are with us here are the uh, mavericks, the cutting edge, the bleeding edge. To have friends here from Turkey, Nairobi, Quebec, Portugal. Just think about it, friends. Just imagine that there's somebody like you sitting in a chair or walking or wherever with their phone in Turkey, Nairobi, Quebec, Portugal, Ghana, Kiev, Nigeria, Israel. Kiev, is that you, Tommy? North Carolina, Northampton, Mexico, South Africa, Minnesota, Iowa, Colombia, Denmark, Brazil, Washington, Tenerife, New York, Colorado, Iowa, Philadelphia, Israel, Bulgaria, Hebron, Colorado, Toronto, Ohio, Germany, Quebec, Greece, Italy. My mind is blown. Norway, Oregon, Michigan, Arizona, Barcelona, Los Angeles, Brooklyn, Utah, London, Salt Lake City, Houston, Florida, and Wales.
All right.
That's something very, very serious right there. We have to be the ones who rise above what just the animal level of humanity is doing. And we have to also realize, my 14-year-old said to me, he's like, everyone is just like sheep, Dad. They're just like sheep. I was like, wow, it's amazing that a child sees that. I remember being in my 20s and realizing, like, at a certain point, 18, 19, I was like so upset that everybody just behaved like sheep. And then there's like, like an aha moment. I remember the aha moment. It's like, you just need a good shepherd. It's not a problem that people are like sheep. It's not a problem that everyone just follows whatever the media tells them to do. How can we get the media to tell everyone to love each other? It's not a problem that everyone just goes after whatever is fed to them on social media. But how can we feed them that unity is where we need to be? How do we feed everyone that being good towards one another is where it's at? It's not a problem that everyone is like sheep. It's not a problem that we have a giant minus power. And it's not a problem that we have a giant plus power. How can this small group just make a filament between them and that will glow? That's all it takes. You have huge electric coming from a huge power plant somewhere. It gets reduced at the street a little bit. When it comes in here, just it lights up the whole house, right? It doesn't. There's giant sources of energy. All we need is a small filament who knows how to correctly work between the two, and you light up everything and sustain it, not like light it up and burn it down.
Mm. Yeah, man. We I don't know. When I think about the future, I I see that we're gonna have to change our there's nature is setting up the stage right now for a new level of human perception. You know, that idea of someone opposite from me should be eliminated. I need to, you know, to at least restrain that which is opposite to me, so I won't have to deal with that oppositeness. That is just something that stems from our infancy, evolutionarily speaking. You know what I'm saying? It's like we can't deal with these differences. We can't fathom the
This is
idea
this is not
of
this is not Iran, bro. This is not Iran where they kill someone if they don't
we're
like your.
seeing.
I mean,
Why do we see our
if you
screen with
full screen,
yeah, now we don't see our screen. Okay, go ahead, sorry.
was I showing you my whole screen? I was just trying to show you one window.
I saw us actually. Okay, now I see what you're saying. Oh, Kathy Griffin, I saw that. Yeah.
Okay. What I was saying is that, in Iran, if you're gay, you can be killed,
Right.
right? Or if your political view isn't uh, theirs, you can be killed. This is this
Yeah, I
is
saw that.
this is
That's
like a
just
regular American politician. I mean, American Hollywood, actress,
yeah.
like calling to like kill someone on the other side. Like, I don't like I disagree with your point of view, so I'm calling for your beheading. It's
No, no, I'm telling you, I'm laughing not because I saw it too and I was shocked for a few seconds there, but I think that just exemplifies, you know, the level of our level of evolution. This is I when you look really from when you zoom out of this whole situation, nature is setting up the stage. The gap between the left and right represents two forces of nature that are constantly shaping evolution, driving evolution. This has to happen. It needs to happen. But the more we add the consciousness, the awareness of where it's going, then the less violence, suffering, and conflict will have to materialize. So the differences will have to be there. We don't need to become similar. We don't need to start canceling our views. We don't need to become, to compromise with each other. We need to recognize instead that we depend on each other, and the answer and the solution and the right way forward exists somewhere in the middle. It exists
if we
somewhere, not in the middle where I give up on a little bit and you give up on a little bit, where we manage to connect to something greater than ourselves, you know, to something that's we just can't, it's a perception we just can't see right now. And modern politics also is just not a good enough vehicle. It's not an advanced enough connection between these polar opposites to make them a functioning system. This is what's happening. We're going to. Sorry, I'm just, there's trying to express this thing.
you're hitting it right on the head. We should continue to go back to looking at children again and again. We should continue to look at it as an example for ourselves. When we go out and learn, first of all, you take all of our best universities and all of our best media and all of our smartest minds, and we get a world where people are slaves, where we're destroying the earth, and people are depressed and fat. Okay, nothing against being fat, nothing against being depressed. It's not the best state to be in
Sure,
for optimal
sure.
health. So give me your best universities, give me your best and brightest, and and we're going to have a world that most people are upset, starving to death, depressed, overworked. Okay. So I'm not, I don't think we were doing such a great job before. So now let's look at children, how children learn. So now, of course, if your job is to be a heart surgeon, use your mind. If your job is to be a brain surgeon, use your mind. If your job is an engineer, use your mind. If we want to figure out how humanity is going to exist together, what happens when children learn? Children are not going out to learn with their mind. The first thing a child does is an action, and then the thought follows it. The mind behind it follows it. The parent takes the child and does something with them. And then the child later understands how it all works. With the child, there's always this kind of action that precedes the understanding, right? It's kind of how nature develops the kid. Like the kid drives the pretend car, and no parent says, "You're such a little dummy. That's
Right.
not a real
Yeah.
car." The kid's like sitting there like, "I'm hammering too." You're like, "No, you little idiot. That's just a pen. That's not a hammer." You would never do that. You
Yeah.
would never, no good parent would ever do that. You allow the child to kind of do an action before the mind fully gets it. Why? Because a child doesn't have the mind of an adult yet, but the child can behave the way the upper level behaves, even though the mind doesn't get it yet. Why? Because the child can't figure out, the mind can't attain it yet.
Oh, okay. Okay. So taking this line of thought forward, what we need to do is start playing. We're playing the wrong game.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole thing that's happening here. We're playing the wrong game, and modern politics, the way it is right now, perpetuates the wrong game because it was built, hundreds of years ago. The US Constitution, I can't remember, one of the comedians said it right. Like the US Constitution was written in a time when they wrote with feathers. It's like, is it really, not that, I'm not disregarding now anything that's laws or in the Constitution or whatever it is, but I'm just saying we are advancing, we are evolving, and a part of evolution is playing the next level of where we need to be, even though we are not there yet. So if there's one thing that we need to recognize to start playing the right game, just one thing, that we depend on each other. That's
That's
it.
it.
That's
If
it.
we
That
if we look if we
you,
would
you can't make the
if
other side disappear. That's the bottom line. You just can't. You got to live with them. You
if we would
depend on them. Yeah.
stop looking at everything as if we're in charge of everything, and start looking at it like every person that I see, nature made all this. Nature's running this show. Let me participate in my role in it.
Exactly.
Not that I
Exactly.
need to make.
Exactly. I mean, nature's running the show. That's what inspired me. Nature's running the show. This is what, ancient traditions, ancient cultures knew and felt because they were closer to nature, because they were less evolved in their egoistic consciousness. So they knew it instinctively, going back to truth, which you started talking about in the beginning, how, well, I'm connecting too many things here, but, the difference, why is it that animals don't need politics? They don't need politics because they have instincts. So even if someone needs to lead, it will happen by way of nature. Even if it's through a struggle, but still by way of nature. And then they go in different directions according to those instincts that they have. In our case, we had such instincts, and um, we as if lost them. We grew egoistically out of our ancient instincts and lost our innate connection to each other and to nature. So we lost the sense of our interdependence, and we all feel independent. We all feel individually in charge of our own life and what is happening, but nature is still in charge.
Well,
Just
so this
like,
is this is a this is an awesome point. Okay, so Julie Dahan on YouTube says, "What does it currently look like for both sides to work together?" So first of all, let's just stop for a second and say nobody's wrong. Everyone with their opinion. Why? if you reverse time really, really fast, let's go back, take 10 seconds and just reverse time all the way back to the Big Bang. Like all of matter, which once it came out of that we will talk about maybe before the Big Bang in 100 shows from now, but from the Big Bang out, right? Before that time, there was no time and space. There was no top and bottom. There was no right and left. As soon as the bang happened and the explode and it went out, then you're dealing with two. You're dealing with plus and minus. Why? Because now you can measure things. Before that, when everything was one, there's nothing to measure. There's no you and me. There's no us and them. There's no top and bottom. Everything was one. Once it goes out, now it's like, okay, well, where does it be? How fast was it going? Something per hour. It went, it's this big or that big. Once creation begins, you can start to measure everything. Well, I just tried to
No,
hold
no,
the
no, no,
entire
no.
universe
I'll
in
keep
my
going.
brain.
I'll keep going.
Okay, I just
We were.
just tried to hold the whole universe in my head.
I get what you're saying. Basically, what Seth was saying is very simple. Big Bang, something, something, something. U.S. elections.
Exactly.
What happened what happened on the way there? The evolution of individuation and differences and
Oh, yeah.
disparities happened.
Let me
Go,
get back
go,
on the horse. Okay,
jump
so
in,
here's
jump
the
in.
point.
Yeah.
So from our root, in our root, we are one. That's
Yes.
it. So that is the root of the human,
Yeah.
is that we come from this unit, from this singularity. So everyone feels that I'm the most important. Everyone else should serve me. I should be the most famous and I should be the most rich. And if I do something for someone else, it's only really so that they benefit me. I'll do it in a way that looks good on the outside, but really everybody here, listen up, everybody here is running some kind of software inside that says, I'm the most important person in the world and I should be the richest and smartest and most handsome. And that's how it is. So everyone is running that. So when Julie says, what does it look like for both sides? Wow, the air is really quiet right now. So when Julie says, what is it? Do you feel that? So when Julie says, what does it look like for both sides to work together? We don't know yet, Julie. It's never happened before.
But
It's something.
we just have to play. We have to start playing in it, Julie. Yeah, go ahead, man.
All of these individual pieces that feel this, now we need to bring this plus and minus together and do this thing, not like all of the animals and all of the plants that do it only by instinct. That's the whole magic of where we're at. That's the whole great transition. We're going to move. All of creation up until now has been just instinct. We
It's
are now.
yeah, I gotta give it to Julie though, because it's a rightfully asked question. We want to know how something will work, but that's the whole the whole thing with the great transition that's coming right now. We're entering a process where we are led by nature, and we are not the managers of the process. We are participants in the process, but we have to grow our consciousness to recognize and sympathize with this process. So there is a very it's an interesting situation. We're not like animals. We're not like other species that are simply being pushed by natural forces, and that's it. Through the conflict between the left and the right, between
Let
those.
me ask you a
Yeah,
question. So as you're about to say what you're going to say, have this in mind. So Auburn Dawn on YouTube
yeah.
says how to support what you don't support, like as a child, like how to support. I'm not
Yeah,
sure
I
exactly.
think I understand what he's asking. What here, Auburn? Is this a
Maybe it's
male or female?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Anyway, whatever you're asking, Auburn, I think I got it. As a child, you cannot support what you don't. You cannot like what you don't like, right? But you can play games, and you're super influenced by other children. And this is what's happening to us right now. We think we're so rational. This is what kills me a lot of the time, especially when I look at like what's happening with how people, how we all of us, we get so aggravated and passionately arguing and willing to kill each other for politics and all that. And we don't realize that all of this too is a certain kind of game that we're playing that is constantly being fueled and is being, pushed and orchestrated. And there is so much social influence and media influence and this climate of that is controlling this game and shaping this game. And what you get as a result is this divisive kind of mentality that we have. But if we played a different kind of game, a game that said, yes, we're different from each other, but you know what? The heroes are those who manage to work on their sense of interdependence, on their sense of mutual completion, on the understanding, back to your parents, Seth, that you can't divorce from humanity.
That's
You
Elliot's
know,
question there. Elliot Pines was asking like, what do we stand and solve the problem, or we run away from it?
So trying to the way our political system works right now is just basically we're running away from the problem. What do you try to do? You're trying to beat the other side, and and then
And just come back stronger. So the
and
Democrats will win, and then the
ex-
Republicans will win, and the Democrats will win, and then the
exactly.
Republicans.
Now we're saying don't try to do that, and also don't try to cancel your opinions and cancel the differences. No, the differences are set by nature, and nature is pushing humanity to evolve by separating us and making us into these polar opposite, creating these polar opposite differences between us that we can't bridge. We cannot bridge them. I think that needs to be part of the new consciousness of human beings into the 21st century. We cannot bridge our differences. We need to expand on this level of human awareness and human perception. We need to rise to a new level of consciousness. We need to expand human perception to a point where we can actually see that we're parts of a single body. That sense of the single body that we're all part of is missing. Animals have that. The cells in your body have that. The even ancient cultures thousands of years ago had a certain sense of that. We lost it. We think we are disconnected from each other. We think the others are enemies. We hate our own cells in our own body.
Mhm.
We're not seeing that. We're just not seeing that. It's a matter of of awareness and perception that needs to grow. The heart needs to expand. The eyes need to expand. The mind need to expand. That's what's happening. We are the only thing that confines us is our ego. And the only thing that will solve our division is rising above the ego. And it just cannot happen without the other side. We need each other. That's really it, guys. Ah, what do you do, Seth?
I am just so grateful to have a friend like you. I'm so grateful to seriously, I'm so
I
grateful to have friends like this that we can hear this every day and remember what's really going on. I mean, just what you said now that we're basically like hating parts of our body.
Yeah,
Like
man.
we count on everyone. I mean, the people we hate like make our food, make our clothes, like make our highways, and we just want to. It's the solution is together, everyone, above the problems. Anyway, you said everything. I don't even want to. I don't even want to contaminate it. You said
So
everything so beautiful.
so choose a song for us to celebrate rising above
Okay,
differences, which is what we're
so
hoping for humanity. Um,
thank you everyone for being here, and again to our friends. We have moved over to our new YouTube channel, which is called The Great Transition. If you subscribe and ring the bell, though, you'll get updated throughout the week. We're going to be sending out, Chris is working with us to send out small clips throughout the week from the show, like highlights.
And more things to come, and more
and
things
more
to come.
songs and all kind of stuff. Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of exciting stuff coming to the new YouTube channel.
Oh, and Twitter, Twitter, Seth. Also, the handle is at TGT_pod. I'm sorry, I didn't prepare anything to put on the screen. Maybe Chris can put it in the YouTube chat. We want to be active with you on Twitter, thinking together with you what we want to discuss in these shows from episode to episode. We want to communicate with you. We want to stay in touch with you between the shows, and we want to try to do it there on Twitter. So subscribe to the YouTube channel, like Seth said. If you're not there already, and if you still watched on Facebook, please move over to YouTube, because that's where the action is gonna happen. So I'm gonna show this. Everyone can see the link again for the new YouTube channel. And Chris just posted on the YouTube chat the Twitter handle, so start following that as well if you want to stay in touch between the shows. Song? All right.
We wanna know what makes your heart sing. We do.
Thursday, 2 p.m. we will be here. Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern.
Does connection get you boiling? We do. We want you to know that you make our heart sing. You do.
Connection above all
And we need you
differences.
to know this connection got us boiling. We do.
Sunday, Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern, we will be here. Thank you, everyone. Let's rise above all differences. Nature's setting the stage.
Is love by one and all. We spend our days doing good to others, and we all come to be as one. We wanna know, do we make your heart sing? We do.
You're the most important person in the world.
We wanna know if we can sing this love song to you. We want you to know that you make our heart sing. You do.
Every one of you, that is.